Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canadian Shield, your source for trusted analysis. My name is Sterling. I'm your host. MP Holland, Mark Holland, was making an announcement today about how the Liberal government is going to be paying for a commercial to make everybody aware of the dental program. And I had to laugh because it's like, isn't that all of you are saying? I mean, the entire Liberal Party, no matter who you interview, that's all they say over and over again is school food program, daycare, and dental. And of course, people are pushing back, saying, what are you talking about? Dental is not solving the inflation rate. Dental is not making food prices cheaper. Dental is not making housing prices cheaper. Dental is not improving the caliber of our life in any way, shape, or form, except for a very select few. I suppose that is reflected in the idea that they need to make a special announcement for it. I suppose that's reflected in the idea because nobody is picking up on what they're throwing down. Everybody is just letting them say their piece and then completely and utterly not responding to it in any way, shape, or form in a positive manner. Now, before I get into it, I would encourage you all to like, comment, and subscribe this channel or the video itself. I am up against a lot of censorship from individuals such as the Liberal Party of Canada. And any assistance that you're willing to offer me, I appreciate. Now, they were in this school announcing the same school they were in before, talking about this denture program. And just on the side note, from what I hear, this denture program is nowhere near helping people. It's just double dipping. However, this press gallery, this scrum, didn't ask him a single question about the dental care. They asked him a question about the supply and confidence with the NDP. They asked him a question about the supply and confidence with the Bloc. And they tap danced around it. Even the guy in support jumped in on it. So I'm going to let you hear some of the answers. There was no questions based around the announcement. These questions were only based around the political situation of this country, which is telling. Can't control your own press. Something to be said about that.
And so we're moving towards a real conversation about what this country is about. And I think today is a great example of that. There will be a choice sometime over the next year about the kind of country we have.
Exactly. That is a choice that most Canadians are ready to put to the test right now. Do we have a country where the Liberal government, where the federal government tells you what you're allowed to say on the internet, where the federal government censors you if you say something that they don't approve of? Do we have a government where the economy gets bad and they blame everybody else? Do we have a government that overspends on apps that don't work? Do we have a government that has got up to 40 different kinds of corruption cases on the go? And because of the supply and confidence they have had with the other parties, no investigations have been able to be initiated. Is that the kind of country that we're looking for? Are we looking for a country where when you don't agree with them, your money is frozen solid because you bought a T-shirt in support of people that you do agree with? Is that what they call the democratic process? That they would seize the bank accounts of single mothers who bought T-shirts online because the proceeds, the profits of those T-shirts went to assist the families of truckers who were trying to stop a medical procedure being inflicted upon them? Is that the kind of country that we're looking at? Because that's the kind of country that we are setting up as, right? That's the kind of country that a vote for the Liberal Party will give you. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. What about all the public servants and all of the doctors and the teachers and nurses who had to be put out of work because they refused to submit to these medical procedures? Is that the kind of country that we're looking for? Is that the kind of country where we can cancel a person because they disagree with the policies, or they disagree with the motions, or they disagree with the movements of various particular political parties? Is that the kind of country that we're looking for? Because I agree with you 100%, MP Holland. The election that we want right now is going to determine the difference between freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and freedom versus not. And all of that is without even mentioning the carbon tax and the fiasco and the jobs that's cost us, and the jobs that this government has destroyed in an effort to virtue signal. That's the kind of country that we're coming down to. Which one do you want? Which one do you support? Which one do you think sounds better for your future and your present day? Now they were asked about the supply and confidence agreement with the Bloc.
The Bloc now seems prepared to prop up this government on confidence votes if its demands are met.
And I think to other parties who are pining for an election, they have to ask, well, what's their end game here? I think it seems to be more about serving their interests than Canadians' interests. If there are parties that want to pass legislation where we have shared priorities and things can be made better, then of course we're willing to work with them.
So they're willing to take it. They don't care about the situation of this country. They want to say that it's the Conservatives that are only looking out for their best interests. They think that you and I are going to believe that two parties that have colluded together to keep the country in a state where that people are not happy, or at least 49% of the people have expressed an interest in changing the political party as a whole. And yet somehow in his mind, he thinks that if he can just throw in these little digs, you and I are going to fall for that. You and I are going to allow him to project that it's the Conservatives that are only looking out for themselves. Never mind that the Liberal Party has done all of the things that they've done with the support of the NDP. I mean, ask yourself, who's looking out for the best interest of the country versus who's looking out for the best interest of themselves? Of course, the Mississauga MP in the background, who's desperate to be noticed, comes forward and he has something to say on the subject. So let's just listen to his tirade.
If I can just add to what Minister Holland said, look, both Mark and I speak to my colleagues across the country daily, weekly, sometimes hourly, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that there is not a lack of enthusiasm. In fact, it's quite the opposite. People are enthused, they're excited, they're looking forward to getting back to Ottawa next week, to get back to Parliament. And on the second issue about the other parties, the question shouldn't be to Minister Holland or other members of the governing party who they're working with. The question should be to the Conservatives. We're there to work with everybody in the House of Commons to get legislation passed and to make the country run better. The question should be put to Mr. Poilievre and the Conservatives, why aren't you working with anybody else? Because all the other parties seem to be able to manage to do it.
Well, that's a very good point, isn't it? I can't tell you the amount of times I've seen Minister Champagne stand up and go, "We will take no advice from these Conservatives," or how many times I've heard Chrystia Freeland stand up and say they won't take advice from the Conservatives, or how many times I've heard the Prime Minister stand up and say that he refuses to listen to anything that the Conservatives have to say. I've lost count of how many different Liberal ministers have said that they refuse to work with the Conservatives, that they refuse to accept any advice from the Conservatives, that they refuse to accept any policy ideas from the Conservatives. So I ask you to understand that there's no way in the world that even if the Conservatives had been willing to, the Liberal Party is not. The Liberal Party is refusing to work with them. And of course, that's because of the ideological driven ideas that the Liberal Party has, that they don't care about the cause of the damage. They only care about getting their own way. I think it's very telling that he says we're all working together and the state of the country is the worst it's ever been in the history of the country. I mean, the economy was better off when there were people that there weren't even paved roads. I mean, think about the idea of that. Just think about that. Think about the fact that when there were people still moving around on canoe, the economy was better off. I just think that was stronger, you know. I just feel like the guy says, oh, well, all of the other parties are working together. And okay, so all of the other parties are working together. So you have a clear majority in the House, which means there's nothing that the Conservatives have ever done that have slowed you down. There's nothing that the Conservatives have ever done in this current group that has stopped you from implementing whatever it is you wanted to do. That's what the supply and confidence agreement is all about. And so now the state of the country is abysmal. You blame everybody but yourselves. You blame, the next thing, I'm waiting for you to blame that a comet went by and somehow that's the problem. And yet somehow in your mind, you're still thinking you're going to deflect away from yourselves and put it onto Pierre Poilievre because the Conservatives are feeling the temperature of the country, that the people want an election. If you're so confident in your moves, if you're so confident in everything that you have to say, if you're so confident that the Canadians that you're running up and down the country and everybody's talking to you about how they don't want their debt to be taken away, call an election. Put your money where your mouth is. Lay it on the line. But you don't seem to be hurrying to do any of that. You seem to, in fact, be stalling. You seem to be saying things like, oh, it's not our fault, and oh, just give us more time. Anyway, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you next time.